as we head towards the end of the year, it's time to start thinking about how to optimize your CPF and SRS, especially in this backdrop of high cost of living pressures and the pressure to generate returns to beat inflation. So for our next panel discussion, we'll focus on a crucial topic for long-term financial planning. Grow your CPF and SRS with a long-term horizon. Our esteemed speakers will explore how Singaporeans can best leverage their savings with cash, CPF, SRS, and consider if investing them makes sense. The panelists will also share their CPF investing journey and their thoughts on doing more than the standard returns. Now, to moderate this important discussion, I'd like to invite from Endowus, the Head of Research, Min Ekstrom, CFA. Please join us on stage, Min. Welcome. And joining Min from Amundi, he is the CEO for South Asia, Albert Zi. Welcome, Albert. From Dimensional Fund Advisors, he is the Head of Wealth Management Group for Asia ex-Japan and Vice President, Joel Teasdale. Welcome, Joel. Founder of 1M65 Movement, he is none other than Lu Cheng Chuan. Welcome, Lu.
Thank you.
And last but not least, from Capital Group, he is the Investment Director, Andy Budden. Welcome, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Min, all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, great. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. For this panel, we have 4 esteemed guests here to share insights on CPF investing. So my name is Min Ekstrom, as Ryan already said. I'm the head of research at Endowus. Seated to my left here is Mr. Albert Zi. He is currently the CEO of South Asia for Amundi. Prior to that, Albert was most recently head of distribution, sales, and marketing for Amundi in South Asia. And before joining Amundi, he was at Schroders. Next to Albert is Mr. Joel Teasdale. I've known Joel since 2015, and he's currently the head of wealth management at Dimensional Fund Advisors. With over 25 years of experience as an investment professional in Europe, Asia, and the Pacific, Joel, as you can see, is older than he looks. He's a veteran of the wealth management industry. So how much of this was actually spent with Dimensional, Joel?
I think 27 years in the industry, 18 with Dimensional. So I don't think I'm employable anywhere else now.
Okay. Well, thank you. And next is Mr. Lu Cheng Chuan. He's a familiar face for those who are interested in personal finance. Lu is the founder of the 1M65 movement. He's dedicated to helping Singaporeans develop financial strategies to invest their CPF assets. He was one of the few non-civil servants to be awarded the Public Sector Transformation Award in 2018 for his 1M65 efforts.
Thank you.
And last but not least is Mr. Andy Budden. Andy is an investment director at Capital Group. He has 31 years of investment experience and has been with Capital Group for 20 years, even though he looks 25. Andy, prior to that, was actually at Watson Wyatt Investment Consulting.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you so much. Actually, before we get into the discussion here, I wanted to run a quick poll. Maybe if you could just key in the Slido and then the code and answer this simple question. So, yeah. I want to see if everyone has... Oh, okay. I mean, we already have some ansers.
What was the question?
The question, oh yeah, sorry guys.
Who looks the youngest?
How much do you expect in terms of expenses when you're retired on a monthly basis in today's dollars?
Ooh.
So it's like it's close. It's actually close between 1,300 to 3,000, 5,000.
I don't need much. My wife needs a lot more.
Yeah, you guys can also participate if you want.
Well, I guess it all
So
depends
feel
when
free
I
to
retire.
Okay, anyway, so this is it. It's very close. The first two are probably the most popular answers. which is that the choices are $1,000 to $3,000 a month or $3,000 to $5,000 a month. This is what most people in the audience are expecting to have to spend when they're retired. Why am I asking this question? Well, I find this very interesting, right? Because Seven and I wrote an article for the Business Times for CPF investing in August. And I read this study conducted by the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, and they found that a single senior citizen would require at least $1,379 a month to meet basic living needs. And this was in 2019. And we all know how inflation has been. So the cost of living rising rapidly since then, this number could be closer to $2,000 a month to meet basic living needs. And then if you just extrapolate that to when you're retired, at the retirement of 65, life expectancy of 85, taking into account inflation, you would need more than $450,000 at the time of retirement for you to survive your retirement years. And how are we doing, as Singaporeans, how are they doing in terms of saving to actually meet the retirement needs? So I went to the CPF board to look at all the statistics, and you all can do that too. It's publicly available. And looking at the average CPF member in the age bracket of 60 to 65 years, they have a balance of $194,000. So this amount falls much lower than what is actually going to be required. And of course, this is just CPF. A lot of people are going to be working, maybe part-time, full-time in their retirement. They may also have children to depend on or other family members. They also have other assets outside of CPF. So this is just looking at CPF. And because that's what we're going to be talking about today, that's what I'm going to focus on. So with that sobering fact, I'm going to turn to our panelists, and maybe I'll start with Lou. Could you tell us a little bit more about why you started 1M65 and your CPF investment strategy?
To cut the long story short, I was just being pulled in to help a fellow friend. They found out that this was during 2014 and 13 when everybody was anti-CPF. So somewhere in the city, there will be a lot of riots, the wrong word to use. There are a lot of protests, organized protests. Return my CPF. And here, Mr. Lu, they're quietly making money from putting money into a special account, and I was just laughing at them. And one fine day, the CPF found that, hey, there's this evil quiet person making money out of us, and nobody, it's like, hey, it's time that you do us some favor instead of just making money quietly, right? So anyway, so a friend from CPF pulled me aside and asked me for help. So I said that, I can help once. So long story short is it was like an environment like this in Suntec City where I give a talk and tell them that, don't believe in those people. You can become CPF millionaires by putting money in your special account, LA compound, and blah, blah, blah. And then after that, there will be about 30, 40 people who are all retirees, came crowd around me and basically saying one thing like, why didn't you tell me earlier? Why didn't you tell me earlier? The kind of thing. And maybe there's some good left in me that says that I should do something for the country. So it started with a second talk, third talk. And I realized that, it's very difficult to do talks because you only reach, a few people. I started writing. Soon I started YouTube because I found that I could reach more and more. I guess today, that voice, the anti-CPF voice, have died. The other voice right now is, let us put more into the CPF, which is such an irony, okay? So that's how this started, and I think it's gone mainstream. It's a movement, it's not a Lou-centric thing. So I think sitting among here, I've got wonderful 1865 community experts sitting here. They're all holding up the camera, thank you. Okay, and I hope some of you all know. So that fire have flamed and started the whole country, and everybody loves the CPF right now, to the point that they have to scale back some of the good things they've been given. But that's a topic for a few minutes later.
Okay, a few weeks later, okay. You want to explain what 1M65 actually means? Oh,
so it's $1 million by 65 years old. I started that with a low barrier, like what you discovered, that most of the people have only $100,000 in a CPF. And I said, oh goodness, and it's not that not that they are not hardworking, not they are not thrifty. It's just simply a lack of knowledge. So I said that, you know, you could easily double or triple or 5 times that if you put the money in the right place. After CPF, there could be money you can put into Mandi, Dimensional, and all this. I'm a happy customer of Mandi and Dimensional. I'm sorry, I probably don't meet your criteria to be here. But hopefully one day I'll be there. But you know, from there we grow and grow. So right now, 1M65 is entry level. So it's now reaching a stage where multitudes are competing with each other. The latest that we have, someone hit 4M63 with a CPF alone. Okay, 4M63.
Very good.
And the youngest one is 1M32. So
Wow.
I'm not kidding. So I used to be very Haolian now. What's the word Haolian in English?
Arrogant.
Okay,
Arrogant.
arrogant, right? And I was proudly showing you off 1M45. The last I checked, and it's meant to inspire, but it's not so inspiring anymore. Yesterday I checked, it was 2.6M at 52. I just hit 52 a few. 2.6M is quite a lot of money, using CPF, a bit of SRS. But I don't dare to shout out nowadays because people have outdone me. So the wave have now overtaken. I hope this wave would be like a fire, just spread across the nation. PR, Singaporeans, all race to outdo each other, reach your potential, you know, harness the CPF, harness the Mandi, harness Endowus, harness Dimensional, whatever you can, you know, and we all, you know, grow comfortably as a country. I think I talked too much. Thank you.
No, but thank you very much. I think you're just espousing what we believe in as well.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to turn to the other Singaporean on the panel, Albert. Maybe if you don't mind, you can share your personal, you know, investing journey using CPF money. You don't have to disclose actual numbers, but just, you know, like percentages.
Okay, so I think the best investment I've had for my retirement is probably having a very happy and good wife. So she'll take care of me. When I reach 62, I'll ask her for money. Okay, just joke aside. When it comes to CPF, can I broaden the topic to just beyond investment? The first thing I did for my CPF was MediSave. So please do it. So I'm a self-professed, I love to drink, I love to have a good time with my friends. So as a result, I'm not exactly the most healthy, and I don't see myself not likely to go to hospitals in the future. So I make sure that I'm protected from that basis. MediSave, MediShield Plus. If any of you have not done it, please consider. Talk to your consultant and talk to your friends and get it done, because you need to protect yourself and enjoy your life. That's CPF. When it comes to personal investment, so I'm not the best role model like Mr. Lu. I started late, so most of my CPF was originally used to purchase my first home with my wife 20 years ago. So very thankful, it has multiplied thanks to the nation, thanks to the housing prices. It was not because I was smart, it was not because I did financial planning. Everyone make money from their first home. So I withdraw the CPF out and make my first mistake in CPF, put into 2.5% per annum. So I did that because I just don't have confidence to do anything for my personal investment, because I was working for an investment management company. I don't have time for myself. So I felt, and I didn't trust people enough to actually pass the CPF to them to manage. I only give them some spare cash to help me manage some of my investments. So my CPF has been growing at what I felt, 2.5% per annum, which is good enough. The truth is, it was good, but not enough. So I started to do something about it and then turn it into a regular savings plan. So very similar to Mr. Lu, but I don't think I have any numbers to brag about, whether is it 1 or 2 or 3. But I would say that I'm very happy that I entered into this journey. I have 3 children. The second one was a bit like me. So exactly after he's finished his exam recently, he's 15, he asked me a question, "Daddy, what do you do with my money?" I said, "In the bank." "Why?" I said, "Why do you mean?" "Oh, why?" I said, "My friend's daddy is investing money for them." I said, "Oh, okay." So I felt that I needed to do something.
Yeah, joint account with Endowus.
That is exactly the kind of feedback I had. So I feel burdened that I happens to leave the money doing nothing in some deposit in the bank. So I felt sinful for doing that for him now. So I think next time, I think I should ask him to attend an event like that so that he may want to try it on his own. So I think the point I'm trying to say here is that when you use CPF to invest, it's very simple. Start early, start systematic, keep your costs low, and stay disciplined. I'm more than happy to share all the mistakes I've had. I can take 2 hours. So do not work for your money, do not work for your investment, because during my young age, I always believed that if I don't work for my investment do not reward me. So I don't have time to work for my investment, so I don't invest. So I think some of you felt that responsibility like me as well, many, many years ago. So if you don't have time, don't touch, leave it in the bank. But maybe it's better to just follow a more systematic way, which I fully leave it to Endowus to share with you what is it about. Keep it simple, low cost, regular savings plan, do it early. You'll reach your goal even earlier. Secondly, keep it simple, don't try to dump the market, and actually let the power of compounding do the work for you. So maybe I should stop here in view that there are other panelists as well on the panel.
You can be a spokesperson for Endowus.
They'll give you a hat.
Yeah. Well, maybe for the next question, I'm going to turn to Andy and Joel. So we've talked about how a lot of Singaporeans may not have enough assets in the CPF accounts to fund their retirement years. And so how do you think they can, or Singaporeans can, optimize what CPF has to offer to kind of limit that shortfall in the goals? Maybe Joel, you want to start first?
Sure.
Or Andy?
Sure, okay. So I guess, thank you for letting us be here today. CPF is a great asset for the citizens of Singapore. I wish I could invest. I've lived here 9 years. I'm not PR, so I can't, so much to my chagrin. But I too come from a country where we have had compulsory pensions for all of my working lifetime. And so it's a love-hate thing. You want the money now, but you've got to invest. And so we have mandated investment savings. I think having your goal clearly identified as an investor, or your retirement investment goals, is the big challenge. Knowing when you want to retire, how much you need. Endowus can help a lot with that. And then staying focused on that is important. That's where you know where the shortfall is. It's great that you can get a guarantee from the government for 2.5% or 4%, or it changes through time. That's good. But there are other alternatives out there. If you trust in capital markets, if you have enough time, if you're diversified, if you keep costs low, capital markets will do the lifting for you. And so if you look at the long-term returns of asset classes like global investment grade fixed income, you can measure that back to about 1990 pretty robustly. That's been about a 5 to 6% return asset class. Mm-hmm. So it's a little riskier than just taking money from the government, but that will do some lifting for you. If you look at equities, you can measure that back to about 1926. If you look at the US, that's been about a 10 to 13% asset class, depending on how you invested. And so there are alternatives, and if you understand how these asset classes work, and as Albert said, if you're diversified and keep costs low, don't try and time markets, stay focused on your goals, you can let markets do the lifting for you, and you'll find a balance of how much growth or defensive assets you need through to retirement and after retirement. But even after retirement, if you're retiring in your 60s, you might have another 30 years to go. So that doesn't mean I need to deallocate all of my assets from growth assets like equities. And I think that's where working with Endowus can be very helpful to personalise that investment experience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Andy?
Yeah, so I'll actually start by not answering your question.
Okay.
And instead by inviting Lou to become a client. So it turns
Do I
out,
qualify?
so it turns out.
My mum used to say anything that has the word capital. Thank you.
Yeah, it turns out. So it turns out that you're not too small to be one of our clients.
Thank you.
It's one of the reasons I've worked at the firm for so long. I really believe in the mission of Capital Group, and essentially we've been helping investors to save for their retirement since 1931. And today in the US, we actually have 60 million account holders. The average size of those accounts is kind of something between $40,000 and $50,000. So kind of helping normal people to save for their retirement is what we do. And in Singapore, we've had an office since 1989, got 200 associates based here, and all of our registered funds are recognised under the Singapore scheme to be turned on for SRS, and we've got a couple of funds with 40, 50-year track records in CPF IS as well. So kind of, I think we're kind of lined up, and I'd love you to be one of our clients.
Let's do coffee later.
Yeah. But what I'm going to say is really going to resonate with what folks have said. And actually, I speak as a member of the CPF. I've been in the CPF for almost 25 years, and actually, I'm 54, which means that, like a lot of folks in the room, I'm thinking really carefully about what happens to my my special account next year. Maybe we can talk about that in a few minutes. I mean, I think rule number one is to absolutely maximize the flexibility that the ordinary account and the special account give to you. I personally have found the ordinary account flexible, very easy to use. I've found that the kind of narrower range of investments for the special account, I've found it slightly harder. I'm happy to talk about that as well. But number one is absolutely use the flexibility that's given to you. And then after that, I think there's a couple of really important kind of rules to remember. So the first one is exactly what Joel said. So why would you maximize this potential? Because today, the yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4%. That's kind of higher than what you can get from the ordinary account, certainly. And equities over the last 50 years, call it 9-10%. Whatever it is, if you invest for the long term in equities over most time periods, you've done better than the ordinary account and the special account. So I think that's number one. Number two would be to remember, notwithstanding the huge amounts of wisdom that we heard from the panel in the last session, actually for the vast majority of people in the room, including me, the right thing to do is actually simply to find a really sensible portfolio and then invest in the funds in that portfolio and just hold them, get invested, stay invested, and don't try and get smart by having a narrow portfolio that invests in a couple of sectors or just one or two geographies, and don't be tactical, because tactical investors almost always underperform. And then the final one is absolutely reiterating what Joel said, just the importance of costs. I'm not 100% sure if I'm allowed to say this, but it's one of the reasons why my CPF-IS is invested through Endowus, is the fact that it's a very low platform fee, and then the share classes that Endowus has available are one of the rare sets of share classes that just have sensible fee levels. Costs really, really matter. They probably matter more than tactical investment decisions, and so, yeah, find a platform that can just keep your costs down. So, a few ideas there.
Thank you so much for being a client. Thanks for that. So, I understand Dimensional, Amundi, and Capital Group, you all have funds that are eligible for the CPF investment scheme. And if I were completely new to investing, but I'm determined to build up my retirement savings, and I go on the Endowus platform, how would you suggest I go about deciding what to invest in? And then maybe, I'll have the three of you answer first, and then Lou, who is, the expert at coming up with the CPF investment strategy, can kind of judge which one is the best.
I can go first?
Yes, go first, please, Albert.
So, how much time do I have? 1 minute?
You have one and a half minutes.
So I think the story of Amundi and Endowus started a long time ago. I think it was during COVID, actually, when you really want to find meaningful things to do and you are trapped at home. So it's not easy. So at the time, we caught up with Sam and the team and talking about how can we help the financial communities to improve their financial results. And of course, that comes with performance and low cost and so on. And many, many years ago, there were not that many CPF-approved low-cost instruments around in the market. And it also happens that I joined Amundi about 5 years ago, and I thought that maybe there's also one area where we share similar vision, similar interests to help the community. So we created some of these exclusive share class for Endowus for a few years, and we never turned back since. Cut the story short, I think it's very important that all of you in front of me trust the investment knowledge and also trust the investment portfolio constructions, the team behind the whole firm at Endowus. There's no such thing as you have the best investment portfolio. If you strive for that, you can allocate money to 100 managers and then you find out who is the best. Every year is going to be different anyway. But Endowus keep it simple, they keep it transparent, they keep it predictable, you know what you get. And our job as a partner of Endowus, and I believe for many other friends in the industry is the same, our job is to give them performance, and our job is to keep them as low cost as possible. A little bit of advertisement. I think for Amundi, we're proud to say that for 3 basis points, you access the US equity market. The second most economic viable option is 7 basis points, 3 versus 7. And after that, you got 10. And of course, we do not just focus on price, cost, and value. We also intend to offer a breadth. So as of today, we have 4 pension-approved index funds, all available at Endowus, and not all are available elsewhere. And we intend to introduce another 4 or more in the year of 2025. Some of them are active, some of them are passive, and I'd like to offer a conversation to Sam to talk about it as well for any exclusivity with Endowus as well. So at the end of the day, I think it's about portfolio constructions, using the right instruments, deliver results, and also be conscious about the cost involved in the whole investment journey. That's all from me.
Thank you. Joe?
Thanks, Min. Just remind me of the question. I think it was, what advice will we have for people to select investment options on the platform?
If you're completely new to
Completely new,
investments,
okay.
how do you select which investments?
Thank you. I think the first question is to understand what your investment goal is. How long are you investing for and how much do you need? And that will determine, should be the biggest guiding principle on what asset class you invest in, whether it's cash or fixed income equities, if CPFs, no alternative. So that would be the first thing. The second thing would be to understand what return it is you are owed by capital markets. Everybody in this room, when we part with our money, we invest in equity or fixed income markets, we're owed the return of the market. Capitalism owes you that return. That's the starting point. If you need more than that, then decide how you want to go about trying to get that. Do you want to do it actively by trying to find managers who have superior insights who can time markets? That's hard to do. Or do you just want to accept market returns or try and do it in a more scientific way? So at Dimensional, we have 3 new funds that launched in the CPF program just over 3 months ago. Thank you for your patience and thank you for the tremendous support and trust that you place in Dimensional investing with us. We're working hard to earn that trust and deliver good returns for you. Our view is the market is the starting point. You can do a little better than the market if you trust market prices and just overweight your portfolio to securities that have proven to give you higher expected returns because they're slightly riskier. If you do that in a diversified way, you can generate more returns. So that's the first part, both in equity and fixed income. The second piece of advice I would give people is to, as Andy was saying, don't try and play around the edges to try and generate abnormal returns by timing the market. Stick with a strategic asset allocated portfolio that's right for you and just be disciplined and rebalance when that happens. If you do that, you have a good chance of getting the return of markets. Now, a colleague passed me some information just yesterday, actually. I'll just touch on this because it's why we decided to get into the CPF business through a lot of requests from Endowus clients and others. Very few CPF investors are getting the return of the market. So Morningstar, who's the official consultant to the CPF investment scheme, published some data that as of the 30th of June, the cumulative return for the MSCI World Index, which is one proxy for developed world equity markets, was 23%. The return of the average equity unit trust in the CPF investment scheme was less than 0, was a negative return. Now that's outrageous. We all deserve the return of the market, so that should be a good starting point for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Very insightful. Andy?
Yes, so I'll come at this from the direction of investment strategy. So I think for most people, the most important decision you make when you're arranging your retirement investments is basically going to be getting the strategy right. What does strategy mean? It means asset allocation. What does asset allocation mean? Actually, I think for most of us, once again, including me, it essentially means how much do you allocate to kind of equities as an asset that should give you better returns over time, versus how much you allocate to fixed income, which is likely to give you kind of more conservative returns over time. So I think everyone's heard all this before. So the asset allocation is important. The challenge is that as you move through your investing lifetime, your investment objective, your goal changes. So if I think about my son, who's 22 years old, his goal, and he does invest, his goal is purely, unambiguously to grow his wealth. He just wants to have more money. For me, my goal is different because I'm not so far off retirement. I absolutely still want to grow my wealth, but I'm also getting worried about losing it. So actually preserving my capital is becoming important to me as well. And then, assuming I make it well into retirement, at that stage my goal will change again. I won't care about growing my money. I'm just going to care about not losing it and making sure I've got income. And the reason, so why did I lay all that out? Because what it means is that the right investment strategy is one that's going to change as you move through your life. So when you're younger, well, if I speak American for a moment, so most Americans would think about having a portfolio that is kind of 80, 90% equities, kind of 10, 20% fixed income when they're in their 20s. By the time they're my age, that will have changed to around about 50, 60% equities, something like that. And then as people move into retirement, that equity allocation goes down. And so the reason I lay that out is simply to say that I argue that the most important thing you should think about when engaging with Endowus' platform is essentially just to start with that idea of I need to build a portfolio with an amount in equities and an amount in bonds that is consistent with where I'm at in life and what my goal is, and just recognize that your goals change over time. I will just grind out the long-term thing again. I've said all of us will say it at least twice today, but I think everyone, once again, including me, just needs to be reminded about it all the time. We live in a world, we're operating in a system where everyone is...
Look forward.
Thank you. Listen to me. Everyone's trying to get us to do something. When you listen to the news is designed to get you excited and worried about the world. When you talk to an advisor, apologies to advisors in the room, often advisors will be trying to get you to do something. Bankers will try to get you to do something simply because when you do something, they take a clip of your money. But actually, often the best thing to do is simply to find a great investment and hold it. And I'm going to illustrate that actually with somebody in our firm. Right now, the portfolio manager on our team with the best results over the last decade, the turnover in his portfolio over the last decade is 1% per annum. Literally 1% per annum. He's bought a great set of stocks and he does nothing for a decade. And he's produced the best results in our team. So just a nice illustration. This is not, long-term is not just some advice that people like us kind of say to end investors. It's actually something that we follow as well and is very rewarding.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy. And Lou, maybe very quickly, how would you do it?
I can't be quick.
Okay. Try your best. Try your best.
Okay. Forget about timing. Okay. I'm going to crack 2 jokes. Okay. First, excuse me, guys. So where's Sam? So Sam introduced Amandi to me. So that was then I was, some of you guys know I'm just a big fan of S&P 500, okay? So I just throw my money at S&P 500, and one fine day he said, Lou, we just got Mandi on board, and you got to move all your funds to Mandi. Now, those days, Dimension is not on board yet, sorry. Okay. just to be very clear, I did move some of the Dimension as well. So it's like he was speaking with such fire. You tell me that your Endowus funds need to move in Mandi and things like that. And I didn't exactly know what this African fund is because the name sounds like an African fund. But so I was like, then he said, no, the fees are very low, blah, blah, blah. It's the performance that's almost as good, even better than S&P 500, blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, half. So I moved half into this African fund. Excuse me. So later I found that actually Amandi wasn't African, okay? So Amandi is a French fund, right? And it's one of the biggest funds in the world. And my Amandi fund is doing well. I just checked 15% return a year. Let's give it a round of applause. My dimensional isn't that bad. It was trailing at 13, so it's also very good. Okay, so sorry guys. Soon, akan datang. Okay. For those people who don't know, akan datang, too bad. Okay. So I just need to say this. Back to your original question, sorry, I can't be. Okay. I promise to the African fund thing, I would undo it. Yeah. Stick to my mind somewhere. So for many of you guys know, I have a very very basic fundamental thing. I just need to say this categorically clear. The people who do well in investments are either those who know very well or those who know nothing. Those that in between that somewhat know something are the ones that that lose a lot of money, right? How many agree with that? Okay, yeah, see, experience that. So if you know nothing, okay, and it's very easy. Just follow, just follow simple people like Mr. Du, right? So what I do is very simple. I throw as much money as possible, as young as possible, into my special account and fill it up to full and convince your partner, which is also a very difficult thing, but convince your partner to do the same thing and fill it up to full, and then that's it, right? Then one fine day you will find out that there's this company called Endowus, which offer great funds like this. During my time, they only got this, so soon it'll be here. I'm unlike the great advice, don't try to time the market. You know I time the market, right? So when
You're
the
not
market
supposed to say that, Lou.
crash, okay, I hood guys see, the kind of thing. Just whack everything in. Can you please try to translate that for the Angmo, please? Okay. Just whack everything in and just sit back and that's all I need to do, right? So you know who did this? My eldest daughter, Kate, this year she's 23. She did that when she was 20 years old. My son and I are the so-called family expert in investments. My daughter, she failed her math, just pretty shitty in academics. Very great street smart person. So she's street smart to know that she don't know. So when she saw that market crash, when the father and the brother is going in, she transferred everything into it and forgotten about it. So 2 or 3 years later, I asked how she's doing. She said, I don't know. Right? And she lost the password. She took 2 days to recover it. 60% return. Outstanding, right? 60% return. And my son, who is active investor, very smart, run algorithm. Chun Hui, I think Chun Hui, our expert here, was guiding him a little bit, and 25% return. No, I'm not saying one day he's only 22 years old, 21 years old. My point to you is this, right? There's no right or wrong, but I think a financial safety net using our CPF is very important. Okay, SA, fill it up to full. Nothing beats 4% risk-free rate. If these guys say they beat, okay, yes, they beat on the top line, but risk-free, I don't think they let us say that. Then after that, that's where all the funds here comes in, right? And they are performing very well. I mean, I just told you, right, there are people who do 4 million by 63 years old. For me, I like to say I did well, but against them, I don't think so.
Thank
okay?
you.
Yeah,
Sorry, we have a few minutes left, so I do want to get into some of the questions from the audience. I have a lot of questions from regarding SA. You just mentioned to put everything into SA, but it's closing for those who are 55 and above. And I'm going to open this up to everyone. So maybe in each very short sentences, could you just say, is it still worth putting money into SA? Are there different strategies for those in different age groups? Albert.
I can go first.
Yeah, please.
I have 6 aunties, and my wife's side, I have another 7. I've got 13. Never before the Chinese New Year is all about SA. So we are talking about that, and the answer is very straightforward. I said, do something about it. But please don't do it yourself. You need help. So I will stop there, because there's a long answer, and there's not many minutes left. But my answer is, you have to do something about it. But try not to do it yourself, and get someone that you can trust, have a conversation, and discover what you can do to improve the return from 2.5% to a much higher return in the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Joel?
Yeah, look, I think it's one of the great things about CPF. If you can get a guaranteed return, that's good, take it. But there's a point where you may need to get more than that return to satisfy your lifestyle goals. And then you can think about, fixed income or equities. I think there's some good solutions in the CPF investment scheme for just in fixed income if you don't have the appetite to take equity risk. If you do, there's some good solutions in equities as well. You can blend better in the fullness of time. That should serve you well for more than a guarantee, because a guarantee means no risk, as you're quite right. You've got to take some risk somewhere to get some more return.
Thank you. Maybe I'll go to Andy first, and then Lou, you can close it up for us.
Yeah, so I think the question was probably looking a little bit more broadly, but thank you. I'm going to come at it just from the perspective of myself, so a very particular kind of 50-year-old. And how I'm kind of processing this is when I speak to my friends and colleagues around the world, they remind me that the existence of a government-guaranteed annuity is pretty rare in this world. And so I will, well, obviously I have no choice. I definitely get the basic retirement sum, but I will likely be topping up to the full retirement sum, and I see that as a way of just basically it just makes sure that I won't die destitute. I won't die like in poverty, and I just think that's a great thing to do. What I will do then with the rest of my balance is I will take it out and I will immediately reinvest it. And the thinking behind that is because if you do the maths on CPF Life, the maths I did says that it depends a bit when you die, but assuming I make it to 85, the return that's implied inside CPF Life is around about 2.5% to 3.5% per annum. And I think I can do better than that, reminding what Joel and I said earlier on about equities, kind of call it 9-10% per annum. So once again, I'm going to probably top up to the full retirement sum. Everything else I'm going to take out immediately and immediately reinvest. I won't leave it in cash because cash burns a hole in this person's pocket.
Great strategy, thank you. Mr. Liu? You have -4 seconds.
So, yeah, that's why I was looking at time.
Time's up,
I
dude.
got to stop
Time's
really.
up.
I haven't even started yet, okay? So I'll just say this. This is a fiery topic, okay? Fiery topic. And I was just, after 15,000 messages on 1865 Telegram group, the phone almost burned. Those days, when this thing came up, I came to realize this is what I think I would do. Number one is, if you think you have a long time horizon in terms of your health, look at your health, you know yourself, right? Okay. For myself, I think I'll live to 100 years old because, yeah. So, and I want to live to 100 years old for money's sake, okay? Because if I live to 100 years old, if I know I can live to 100 years, wrong, the other way around. I want to live to 100 years old because I will top up my retirement account to full. I'm talking about full, okay? 4 times BRS. If I top it up to full, I think it's 426,000 Junis, $426,000. If I top it up to full, when I hit 70 years old, I can withdraw $4,326. Wow. Okay, somewhere around there, okay? $426 every month. My wife can withdraw $4,260 something dollars. So every month, if I live to 100 years old, we have $1 million back. That's not too bad, right? So I give the government 400,000, I take back $1.4 million back. That's why I want to live to 100 years old. Hey guys, I just gave you all the formula to make money out of the government. You should clap, you should thank me, man. So bottom line is, you need to live long, right? Do all the things that's right? So eat healthy, live healthy. I know, time's up, okay. Live healthy, have nice people around you and things like that. Then you can live, the longer you live, the more you take money back from the government. Now, unfortunately, for some of you, you say, oh no, I'm going to die early, that kind of thing. Then, no choice, then when you hit 60, when you hit 55 years old, then don't top up too much into the RA. Take out some money, put into great funds like theirs. Assume some risk, okay? Assume some risk, and you do fine as well, right? Okay. But for me, risk-free, $1.something million when I hit 90, 100 years old, I think it's a no-brainer. Good idea. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Min. Thank you.
Big hand to all panelists for their long-term view.